up, you guys? It's your girl Rosa, and I'm back at it again with another video. So I literally just woke up. It's like 6:30 in the morning, but I wanted to give you guys content, so this is what I'm doing. I'm filming because I have work. I'm in my pajamas, so don't mind this. It was a makeup stain and I just fucked up my shirt, but I wanted to do a makeup look and do a story time with you. You guys like our story times, I like our story times, so why not? My room is literally a mess because I just slept in my bed and I still haven't made it. Don't judge me. So, well, I asked you guys if you guys wanted to do a story time, a makeup routine, or a vlog, or like a BBL supply list. You guys are neck and neck with the makeup routine and the story time, so I figured I'd just put both together and we come up with something. I am going to work, so I'm gonna try here, okay? Because usually I don't wear makeup to go to work. So I already moisturized my face and washed my face, brushed my teeth, all that. I used the milk makeup, but I'm not gonna really go into depth. If you want to know what I'm using for this makeup thing, I can probably list it down below in the description box. I'm gonna go in with my milk hydro primer. And guys, don't mind my lashes. I'm trying to take them off, but they're holding on for dear life. I'm gonna put falsies on top of them. Before we get into it, I just want to say thank you guys so much for, you know, supporting me and subscribing to my channel. We're getting far, and I really appreciate it more than you know. We're at a good amount of people, and you guys, is the story time of me being 19 and pregnant. First one, I kind of told you it was like, you know, my first fight, but this story time, I kind of want you guys to be relatable. I'm not saying that everybody was a teen and pregnant like I was, you know, or a young adult, but there's people out there that always ask me like, oh Rosa, how do you do it with 2 kids? And yeah, because I had my kids, if you don't know, my kids are 10 months apart. They're both premature. Yeah, so like by 20 years old I had 2 kids, which is literally crazy now that I say it, but it is what it is. Everyone always like came up to me and told me like, oh my god, I can't believe you have 2 kids, you're doing so well for yourself and so forth. So I didn't do it the right way, but I did it some type of way, you know. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to be relatable, and I wanted to tell you guys how I found out I was pregnant, and I wanted to tell you guys how my mom handled it, how I told my parents, and so forth. So let's get started. So it was a November day and I wasn't feeling well. At the time I was living with roommates because I was in college and I was working at a Popeyes like back in the day. This is, you guys have to remember, this is literally right out of high school, like literally right out of high school. I graduated high school in June of 2012 and this is now November of 2012. My birthday is September of 2012, so I had just turned 19. And at the time I was dating my kid's father. Like, we were the only single ones in the house. Everybody else was coupled up. Basically, you know, it kind of pushed us together. Like, we always did go out to eat. We always like went to the movies. We would go on like little dates, but not consider them dates because, you know, my kid's father was older and I didn't think he was like interested in me. You know, I'm 19, well, I just turned 19 and I in college and I work at a Popeyes, and he was more like together. He had a good job and stuff, so whatever. Anyway, long story short, at the time we was already like kind of like dealing with each other, like for sure. And my kid's dad would tell me like, you look different, you're like glowing, or oh, like you're getting like kind of thicker, or you're getting like, I don't know how to explain it with that, it sounded derogatory, but you know, you're getting like fuller and stuff. And at the time, you have to remember, I was 95 pounds. Him being with me and him seeing me at like a nice voluptuous kind of, not voluptuous because I wasn't even big, to be honest, but like at a decent type of weight, he probably like, oh, like, I can tell, you know, your man is gonna know. Your man is gonna tell, like, from your face, from your arms, from your stomach, your chest. Like, my chest was growing very large, my bum was growing very large, I was getting thicker in the thighs. Obviously, you know, I had a little tummy at the time. So he was kind of telling me, like, hey, you know, you're getting thick, like, am I feeding you too well? And I'm like, no, like, you know, I'm not sure. You know, I have been eating a lot of the Popeyes, but that's about it. And he was like, okay, like, I just want to, you know, make sure you can't be pregnant, right? And I told him no, because at the time I had the implant in my arm. And if you don't know what that is, that's a birth control for like 3 years. And I told him, no, you know, I only had my implant in my arm for 2 years. Like, there's no way that I could be pregnant. So he was like, okay, cool. Like, I just wanted to be sure. And I'm like, okay. But then it had me thinking, like, I was kind of unsettled, like, at work. Like, why would he say that? Am I fat? Or like, damn, am I missing something? And you have to remember, at the time I was getting my period every so often. Like, I was getting my period kind of on time. Didn't miss a period. It wasn't like I missed a period. No, I didn't. I actually didn't miss a period with either of my kids, but that's another story here or there. I go to work and I text my friend at the time and I'm like, hey, I text my friend T. I'm just gonna use her as T because I'm gonna do another story time about another thing and she's in that story. But anyway, I text my friend T and I'm like, hey, like, you know, Danny asked me this. I don't know why he would say that, but I'm nervous. So you have to keep in mind, I'm still young. I'm not sure like how to go about certain things or how I would know if I was pregnant. So I kind of tell her, like, you know, I'm kind of nervous, even though she's like, but you're on birth control. And I said the same thing. I know, you know, but he's saying that I'm looking more thicker, more fuller. And I have been eating the Popeyes a lot lately, but I don't think that I'm pregnant. So she was like, okay, well, you know, I'll come over today and we'll kind of just, I guess, see, like, what's going on. So I was like, all right, cool, like, but say no more, you know. This was my best friend, y'all, so I told her everything. And even with this, I kind of didn't tell her how I, you know, did feel a little different, like my boobs are more sore and stuff like that. But I just thought, like, I'm a growing girl. I don't know what my headspace was at the time. And I did live alone, and you know, even though I could always just go to my mom's very over dramatic, and you'll see in this story. But yeah, I just didn't want to get them riled up or get them shaken up when I didn't really have to. So that's why I kind of just wanted to tell my friends instead of just going straight to my parents. Long story short, my friend comes over today and she goes, hey, she's like, come here. Mind you, this is during Hurricane Katrina. This was in 2012. Hurricane Katrina in 2012 was around Halloween, and this is literally like the second or third day of Hurricane Katrina. I had no electricity in my home, so we were all, or no, we just got our electricity back. I'm not even gonna lie, we just got our electricity back in our home. And I kind of was they were celebrating, they were all drinking. Like, we're in a college house, so everybody's drinking and partying and stuff like that. Everybody's excited that we got our, you know, electricity back after being a couple days without it. So I finally get to charge my phone. My mom, you know, sends me like a couple of text messages like, hey, just checking on you. And I told her, hey, I didn't have anywhere to, you know, check my phone and stuff, but it's on now and I'm fine. So she's like, okay, cool. Come over whenever you get the chance, like, you know, so I can see you. My mom at the time lived in the same town, literally a couple blocks away, so I was always able to walk over there, which is something I always did at the time, so it wasn't like unusual or anything. Friend comes over, she comes usually every day to like chill. It was a 4-bedroom, so it was a couple in every room pretty much. Now that me and my baby father, at the time the guy that I was dating, kind of was sleeping in the same room. Anyway, so she comes over, she brings a bottle and she goes, hey, I got 2 things for you. I'm like, what is it? She sets it on the dresser and it's a pregnancy test and a bottle. So she goes, you're gonna take this, and if it comes out negative, we're gonna drink this together, and if it comes out positive, I'm gonna drink this together. Like, and this girl at the time was my best friend, so anything I was kind of going through, she kind of felt it, I would hope. We've been through a lot together, so I was like, okay. I was so scared. And I had another roommate, her, I'm just gonna say C, and C actually was like, hey, I also might be pregnant too. It has 2 pregnancy tests. I'm like, oh, you can take this one because I know I'm not gonna be pregnant. So she's like, okay, cool. So we're sitting there, we take it, we're us 3 in the bathroom, we're peeing on the stick, we're putting on the thing, flipping it over, waiting, you know, the 3 minutes or so. She flips over her test first and she goes, oh, I'm not pregnant or whatever, thank God. And I'm like, oh, that's what's up. So I flip mine's over thinking it's gonna be the same, and my shit comes out positive. But it's like a, you know how like when you first get pregnant and it comes out light? No, mine was a dark positive. So at the time I didn't even know what that meant. I'm just like, oh shit, it came out positive. And my friend T and C were like, oh my god, like congrats, like they were happy for me, and I was fucking literally sitting there next to them. I was literally freaking out. Like, I couldn't even fathom the thought, oh my god, I'm about to be a mom and I'm only 19 years old. Like, it literally, I was freaking out. I was more like, oh my god, I have to tell this man who's older than me and who has his, you know, his ish more together, that I'm gonna be his baby mother. Or I just needed to see where was his dad at, or I needed to see like what was gonna be our options. So I go into the other room and I'm like, hey, can I speak to you? And he's like, yeah, no problem, or whatever. And I bring him into the bathroom and I just point at the pregnancy test. So he picks it up. Obviously he's older, he knows what it is. He's like, oh, it's positive. Just like that, girl, just like that. Oh, it's positive. I'm like, yeah, and I start crying. I'm like, what are we gonna do? He's like, well, whatever you want to do, the choice is yours. He was like, me personally, you know, with his religion, he doesn't believe in abortions. So he was like, whatever you want to do, it's, you know, it's in your hands. I'm like, okay, like, I just kind of like, I just need like a moment to let it sink in. So I stay in the bathroom for like 20 minutes. He's there sitting on the tub, rubbing on me like, oh, it's okay, Rosa, like, you're gonna be fine. I'm gonna be here for you every step of the way. You know, this is a new relationship, but we're gonna make it work. I just didn't want to tell anybody, so I pulled my other friends back into the room and I'm like, hey, don't tell nobody my results. And they're like, okay, no problem, like, you know, that wasn't an issue. He tells me, so we have, You know what? Give me 1 second and I'm gonna come on camera. I'm gonna just do my eyebrows and I can't talk and do my eyebrows at the same time. So be right back. So he tells me, you have to go tell your mom. So I'm sitting here deathly afraid. It is a Friday. And I'm just freaking out. And I'm like, what do you mean I have to tell my mom? He's like, yeah, you know, if you're gonna be with me and we're gonna do this and we're gonna have a baby, then, you know, I would rather us be upfront and honest and have your parents' support. Like, oh, great. You know, I'm with the person that wants to do the fucking right thing, and I'm just freaking out. So I'm like, okay. So he's like, get dressed, we're gonna go drive to your mom's house, and you know, we're just gonna tell her the news together. So I'm like, okay. I get dressed, I go to my mom's house, and at this point she already knows my kid's father, knows that we just got together because he is actually a family friend. Basically his older brother is my uncle's best friend, so that's how we knew each other, and that's how like my mom knew him. So when she found out that we were together, the fact that he was a little older didn't bother him, because he's always been around. I just didn't remember him because, you know, I was younger, let's just say. We walk in, she's like, hey guys, what's up? You know, not gonna lie, my mom was drinking, it was the weekend, and she's like, hey guys, what's up, or whatever. And we're like, hey, we got to talk to you. And she's like, okay, cool. But like my sisters and brothers are like all at the stairs because they all came to say hi to me. At the time I wasn't living there, so you know, they missed me, and anytime I would come over, it wasn't an unusual thing that they all would run downstairs and, you know, basically tell me, hi Lily, like, what, or hey Rosa, what's up, you know. So I'm like, okay. She's like, okay, cool. We're sitting down. My stepdad's in the kitchen, but he's like making himself something to eat. And she's sitting on the kitchen table, and then I'm sitting on the kitchen table, and my kid's father is standing out. I basically tell her like, hey, I just wanted to let you know, or no, I tell her like this, I have something to tell you. She's like, what? You guys are breaking up? And I'm like, no. And then she's like, oh, so what's wrong? And I'm like, we're having a baby. She's like, wait, what? Yeah, what? I'm like, we're having a baby. Like, it was so hard for me to tell her. And she started crying immediately. Mad extra, but whatever. I guess that's what happens when your 19-year-old tells you that she's having a baby. Oh my god, why? She starts crying like, how could you? Plans, and you know, you're in college. We you know, we're supposed to prove everyone wrong. At the time, you know, people always assume because my parents had kids early, or they had me early and then my brothers early, that, you know, I was gonna turn out the same. My mom had me at 16. So basically she's more heartbroken about that than anything. Like, oh, we had plans, you're gonna throw everything away like for a baby. And you know, my kid's dad kind of intervened and was like, you know, I'm gonna take care of her, we're gonna be good, don't worry about it. I know you have your guard up in regards to this, but don't worry, she's gonna be good. So my mom kind of calmed down with that. My stepdad turned around, and you know, all he could do was kind of just be like, congratulations, like, you know, be the supportive one, since my mom was having a freaking meltdown and I'm like crying myself. So I'm like, thanks. And he's like, you know, being a parent is very, you know, a big responsibility and so forth. So we had a little talk. My brothers and sisters come downstairs, and they basically was like, I knew it. And my mom asked me like, so how long do you think you are? And I was like, Mom, I have no idea. Like, I've been having my period. It's not like I missed a period and this was something that I could tell you like right away. I literally had every single period. So she's like, okay, that's weird. She was like, well, we have to see that you're not miscarrying, and you know, and see exactly how far along are you. So she asks me to come back tomorrow, you know, since obviously she was freaking out and stuff. She wanted to make sure that everything was gonna be okay. We go outside, and my mom's smoking her cigarette, and at the time I think my kid's dad was smoking too. So they were smoking a cigarette together, and you know, she was like, you're gonna tell your dad. And at the time I was not speaking to my dad. We had a falling out, so we didn't speak to each other for like a year. And I was like, oh yeah, like, you know, I'll tell him. So I called him, and I basically told him like, hey, he answers the phone. I'm like, hey, it's Lily. And he was like, oh, what's up? If you don't know, they do call me Lily. I'm only Rosa to my family for like as my real name, but I'm Lily to my whole family. So if I say Lily, it's because I'm used to it. And yeah, I just had to throw that in there. So he's like, hey Lily, what's up? And I'm like, I just wanted to let you know that you are going to be a grandfather. He stood quiet. He stood quiet on the phone. He didn't say anything. He was just like, okay. And I was like, okay. And I hung up the phone. Come to find out later on, my dad was out because it was a Friday night, guys. So he was out with his guys, and they were at a bar, and he had almost a heart attack at the bar. He was sent to the hospital and everything. And he played it cool, I guess, on the phone with me. Yeah, it was bad. My dad told me that story, like, when we, you know, later on, when he came around. And, yeah, I felt so bad. Because I was, like, very chill with him. I was very cold-hearted with him. I kind of was like, yeah, this is what it is, and I'm letting you know. That night, my kid's dad basically comforted me the whole time and said everything was going to be all right. So I had no other choice but to believe him. The next day, my mom texts us like, oh, come to the house. We have to talk, like, you know, come to the house. So I get dressed. It's literally like 9 in the morning, and she's like blowing on my phone like, come to the house. So I get dressed. I didn't even use the bathroom yet, and I guess that was a good thing because, like, I brushed my teeth and stuff, but I didn't pee. And I guess that was a good thing because my mom made me take three pregnancy tests. So I peed in a cup for her. She dipped every single one. Yeah, it was like, no, we're gonna make sure. It all came out positive fairly quickly. So that's when I found out, like, oh, they're dark and they came out positive quickly. You might be further along than you think. So I'm like, okay, no problem. I guess, like, I didn't know that. And I guess that's what happened in the other one, like with the other pregnancy test, because I showed her the other one. She was like, yeah, you didn't see this. And I'm like, well, I didn't know. Like, hello, I didn't know. She's like, all right, well, you're gonna have to make an appointment. And she asked, like, oh, you know, we don't believe, well, abortion really wasn't in my options, like, at all. Like, I didn't really think of, oh, do I want an abortion? I just always thought, like, what did I want to do when it came down to it, like, as in me and my baby father, like, let's just talk it out, see what's gonna happen. But he was against abortions, and then after he told me he was against abortions, like, my mom didn't ask me to do an abortion, like, nobody asked me to do an abortion. So abortion basically was out of the question, like, from the beginning. I'm your grandma, and that's it. So hearing him kind of be so supportive, I was like, okay, like, you know, he was kind of taking the lead, and I was just letting him. I was eating it up. I was a 19-year-old girl, didn't know what the heck I was doing, and I'm like, sure, sir, like, you want to tell my grandma, no problem. So we go. My mom calls First Response. It's basically a place that if you find out you're pregnant, they do an ultrasound for free, and they do obviously the pregnancy test to make sure you really are pregnant, and basically they give you the markings of how far along you are. So we went to the one, well, she made the appointment for the one in Jersey City. So basically after she made the appointment for me, she gave me the details, and then I went on my merry way to speak to my grandmother. When I go in with my grandmother, she's meeting my baby father for the first time. So I'm like, hey, grandma, this is my boyfriend, and I just, you know, wanted you to meet him because I have something to tell you. So she goes, what, you're pregnant? And I said, yeah. She goes, oh, okay, congratulations. And I'm like, you're not mad? And she's like, no, baby, like, you're grown. I had my kids early, and, you know, even though we wish that you would have waited, it's here. Well, what we gonna do? So I'm like, true, lady. Speaking facts, okay, lady. Long story short, she was okay with it. She spoke to, you know, my baby father. She actually made us like I think it was like lunch, and then we went on our merry way. My grandfather, I called him because he was in New York at the time, and I basically told him over the phone. He also congratulated me, you know, wished me the best, and that was it. The last stop was my kid's dad's mom's house, and we went there. We were eating dinner, and he was like, hey, I gotta tell you something. And she looked, and she's like, oh, she's pregnant, right? And he's like, yeah, how you know? She was like, oh, she looks, because I met her like prior, like, oh, she looked different, like from when she came in the first time. And he was like, yeah, we don't know how long she is, but we're gonna find out soon. She, you know, congratulated her son, and, you know, hugged me, and basically told me that she was gonna support me, and, you know, she's happy for us. And me and my kid's father basically went to the appointment like 2 weeks later. Yeah, like 2 weeks later. And when we arrived, it was an experience. This is my first time, you know, really getting to the nitty-gritty. I had like this big prong thing up my little, you know, and it wasn't a good feeling. I was throwing up from then to now. Like, I literally was barfing my brains out from then till now. And that's when everything started kicking. I guess because like I consciously knew that I was pregnant. Now that like my morning sickness started hitting in, like I had to keep ginger ale and everything else around my bed. I would run like at 5 o'clock in the morning. It would literally wake me out of my sleep. And, you know, he was supportive. I'm not gonna lie, I had a great support system. So after that whole situation, we go finally to see how far along I am. And this is like my first appointment to find out, like, okay, girl, I'm about to be a mom, and how many weeks are you? They tell me that I'm like 9 weeks, right? Yeah, I was 9 weeks. Conception date was my birthday. So basically, me partying and me shaking my little bouquet, and then me coming home lit, I got pregnant that day. Yes. I was like, what? Like, I was so upset with myself, but in my head, I was on birth control. I was kind of freaking out, and I'm like, wow, when we seen my little bean, my first ultrasound was, you know, very sentimental. Like, this would be the only ultrasound that my kid's dad would be there for. And I didn't know it at the time, but I did hold on to it with my heart because this was an amazing experience. He was holding my hand, he was smiling, he, you know, was super excited, and I kind of was too. I kind of let my guard down like after a while, and I'm like, wow, I'm about to be a mom. That's it. Like, I'm about to be a mom, and that's crazy for me like in my experience, but it is what it is. I was happy. I was gonna be a mama, and no one could tell me anything. And the baby's heartbeat was, you know, strong, and this is my first time hearing my son's heartbeat, and that was it. Like, I was a mom. Basically, I think like a couple weeks went by, and I eventually posted it, and I got really negative reactions from some of my family members, even some that weren't even around anymore. Like, oh, you're pregnant and you're gloating about it and you're only 19 years old. And it was like, you know, if you had nothing nice to say and I don't even speak to you, like, why are you even on my page telling me how much of a mistake my child is gonna be? Like, it doesn't change that my child's gonna come. Like, you telling me I made a mistake doesn't, you know, doesn't define the fact that I'm still having a baby. And my son is not a, well, at the time I didn't know what I was having, but my child is not a mistake to me. People kind of went in, and then I had, you know, some people that were very supportive, and the support came from some family members that I was really close to, and I was scared to tell, and I was kind of surprised that they were very supportive, you know. And pretty much I really didn't care after a while. Like, even if they weren't supportive, it was like, oh well, what you gonna do? You're not my mom, you know. I already told, you know, my mom, I already told my dad. What y'all gonna do at this point? Everyone knew that I was pregnant, and my kid's dad got locked up for violation of probation when I was like 3 months pregnant. He was driving to work, and with probation you weren't allowed to drive. It's against the probation thing. So basically he got locked up, and that was it. That was the last time that he was able to come to any appointments and so forth and see my belly. I had like some picture. I got like one picture of him holding my belly, and that's kind of sad for me. But I did do like a journal every month that I was pregnant on how big my belly was, how much the baby weighed, what it, you know, it was the size of a grapefruit and it weighs this much. And, you know, just so that when he comes home, he didn't miss a beat. He was very supportive, so I wanted to support him in his, you know, situation that he was going through. And that's when things kind of got complicated for me. As you can tell, no girl or anyone would want to give birth to a child by themselves, and that's kind of the cards that I was dealt with. Like, I had to do it by myself. Supported for me, and we stood together for a while until, you know, his family intervened in our relationship and so forth, but that's near here or there. My mom was my support system. My stepdad was my baby daddy, because he would go and literally get all the food that I wanted. My dad eventually came around when I was like 5 or 6 months pregnant, and when he came around, you know, we kind of talked everything out, and I wanted him to be a part of his grandchild's life, and I told him, you know, like, I need my dad. Like, I'm going through this and I just need my dad. And he agreed, and we put everything behind us. After that, he was very supportive. I had gotten a baby shower from my parents, so that was great. It was fun. I have pictures and stuff. It was cool. Was happy with my support system to be around, because if you are a teen and you're pregnant, sometimes you guys are not as lucky as I was and have a good support system. So that's why I was blessed. I was blessed with that type of situation, and I had a great support system. It was a hard road for me, you know, going to doctor's appointments. And, you know, some people were like, oh, well, this is the person you chose to have, you know, a baby with. But it was like, he was a great person. He made mistakes when he was younger, and he was paying for them with his freedom. Like, he paid for them with his freedom. He did his time. He came home on parole, and he needed to still make a living. And he wasn't supposed to drive, and he was driving to work, and he got caught, and he had to pay. And, you know, essentially he lost out on seeing his son be born. But he wasn't a bad person. I don't want anybody to think that I think that my kid's dad is a bad person. He's not. very supportive. And when he came home, we hopped back right into a relationship, and he's been my longest relationship since. So I don't want nobody to bash my baby daddy. Don't do that. Don't do that. All in all, I really do say this to say that, you know, people are going to judge you for who you are, what you do, regardless of the situation. Had I didn't have such a supportive system, like a supportive like person or people to be around me, maybe things would have went differently. Maybe I would have had people, you know, con me into maybe doing an abortion or whatever the situation is, you know, talk me into stuff that I really didn't want. I am thankful that this situation happened to me because I get my beautiful son at the end of it. Shortly after, literally shortly after, I got my beautiful daughter out of it as well. And you don't know what it is for people to have judgment on you when you are 20 years old with 2 kids. I ended up graduating college with both my kids. I ended up making a future and career out of myself by becoming a medical assistant, and then later on I got my bachelor's in medical science. So, you know, people are just gonna bring you down. They're gonna always talk bad about you. The situation was different for my daughter. That situation didn't go as planned, and I did ultimately think of other options, and it just wasn't for me. If I can do it with 1, I can do it with 2. That was how I seen it in my head. Other people may not have seen it or see themselves doing that, and that's absolutely fine. I just didn't see myself, you know, changing that option for anyone. Like, my daughter is my life, and without her, I am the type of person that I definitely would have beat myself up over it. Be able to forgive myself in the long run. So I'm glad that that wasn't what transpired. Like, that is my story. There is nothing but truth to that story. I went through some stuff, you know. It was a hard situation, holding my legs up and doing it on my own. Obviously my mom was, you know, there as well, but it's not the same. You know what I'm saying? I created this beautiful little boy, and I had no one there to help me along the way. It's hard. Like, you know, I see videos and I see people do like gender reveals, and I see people, you know, do birth videos and just, you know, maternity shoots, and I wasn't lucky to have that. I didn't get a chance to do that, and I'm not blaming it on anybody. It's no one's fault but, you know, ours. But I don't hate the experience I did have. You know, my mom made the best of what I did have. She showed me that, you know, even though she was upset at the moment for me having a baby, like, her baby is having a baby, you know, and I get it now because I'm a mom myself. So I definitely do get it. I would freak out if that was my child. I'm a mama now, so I understand completely, and you just always will want what's best for your child. But yeah, I just want to close off by saying things were definitely different with my daughter's situation. Family that supported me for my son didn't support me with my daughter. My headspace was in a different position as well. I felt like I needed to do certain things and, you know, question my judgment and, you know, have other options when it came down to the pregnancy of my daughter. And ultimately, literally last minute, I changed my mind because I felt like I lost myself in that process and was like, who am I? You know what I'm saying? Just because I had a baby with my, you know, at 19 with my son, and now I'm 20 and I'm about to have another one, and I'm a mom of 2 at 20. it was a smack to the face for me, but it also was my awakening that if I can do it with one, I can ultimately do it with two. And I wasn't gonna give up. And literally, you see me walking around with a double stroller. You see me walking around with 2 car seats because both of my kids were premature. So that was another situation that I've dealt with alone. You know, nobody knew the hurt that I was going through at that moment. But yeah, being a teen mom was very hard for me. It was not easy, but it's not impossible. And I just wanted to say that because I don't want you guys to think that I'm glorifying teen pregnancy. I'm not by any means. Wait, be married. Like, I know it sounds like a cliche, but be married. You know what I'm saying? Be married, have a kid out of love, not out of passion. You know, have a kid with someone that's going to support you in everything that you do, and just be strong. Like, even if it doesn't happen in those cards and you're like in the same position that I'm in, at the end of the day, no one can tell you anything because you're that child's parent. You know what I'm saying? You're the one that's gonna wake up with them at nighttime, feed them bottles, buy them Pampers, buy them formula, pay rent, you know what I'm saying, pay your car. Like, you're the one that's gonna go through it. People are gonna come around for the moment and be like, oh my God, you need a babysitter, or but it's never really gonna happen. Or they're gonna glorify the beginning of the baby, and then after that, you're gonna lose friends, you're gonna lose family, you're gonna literally feel alone. But it's not hard. The feeling of being a mother is something that overtakes everything. I don't know what it is in women that you just kick on those gears and you make it happen. And I always made it happen for my kids. And I'm blessed that I have 2 beautiful, great kids. Like, I can rant about how good my kids are. And literally, you know, if you know me personally, or if your family and stuff, even they can be like, wow, this 20-year-old that had 2 kids now is 28, and her kids are older, and they are perfect little human beings. Like, you know, they respectful, they're charming, they're beautiful, they're intelligent, they're mannered. Like, it's just crazy what you do. Like, I look at my kids every day and I'm like, wow, I did that. I definitely did do that. But I'm not going to drag it on. I also want to say I am medically cleared for my surgery. So that's it. I'm getting surgery, and I just wanted to throw that out there because I was freaking out yesterday. Like, oh my God, I don't think I'm going to be medically cleared, but I am. So it's officially happening. And needless to say, I want to say thank you guys so much for joining my channel. Thank you guys so much for showing me love. Thank you guys so much for just being on this journey with me through everything. Thank you for listening to my story time. I wanted to get a little serious with this one, and I wanted to tell you basically how I went through teenage pregnancy myself and how I overcame it and what I'm doing now. Look, I'm doing everything that I love to do. Thank you guys so much. I'm not going to rant anymore. I actually have to get ready for work. I'm in my scrub bottoms. I just got to put my top on. But I wanted to close this out by saying thank you guys so much. I literally say it every week, but I really appreciate you guys. And I love you. And yeah, bye.